I'm Shannon Ireland, your host of a Healthy Push podcast. I struggled with anxiety, panic disorder, and agoraphobia for 15 years. Everything used to be hard for me. Even just driving 5 minutes from my house used to feel impossible. But now I absolutely live for travel and adventure, and I experience lots of peace and joy. I've not only reclaimed my life, but I've helped hundreds of others to do the same. Here, we stop managing anxiety and instead we create a healthy relationship with it. One where you say goodbye to the anxious thoughts, symptoms, panic attacks, and fears, and you actually live your life. Forget complicated strategies, quick fixes, or the same old hacks you've heard 100 times before. Each week, I'll bring you simple, actionable advice and honest conversations that lead to real, long-term healing. You aren't just an anxious person, my friend. There are reasons why you're struggling with anxiety, and these are things you can fix and heal from. And this is where that journey begins. Welcome. You're right where you're meant to be. Okay, I have a guest with me today, and I'm super excited to have this conversation because it's a very different one than I've ever had before on the podcast, but super relevant and is just going to be a really good one. So, today I have Bethany Balcer with me, and she's actually a professional soccer player, which is just so freaking cool. Bethany, welcome to a Healthy Push podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I am so excited. So let's just start. Tell us a little bit about you. Like, who is Bethany?
Yeah. So I'm from a really small town in Michigan, and I've been playing soccer ever since I could remember. So soccer's always been a really important part of my life, of my family's life. I have four siblings, and we all played it growing up. And it was just that sport. While I did other things, it was kind of like the backbone of my existence in a way. And so I got to play high school collegiate level and then got the opportunity to go and join a pro team. I actually kind of tried out with the team. I didn't get drafted. Like there's drafts for the league, and was invited to this preseason out in Seattle and made the team like as a trialist. And so dream come true. Obviously, I didn't know how plausible it was or realistic it was for me. So to even get the opportunity was really cool. And yeah, I've been playing professional soccer for 6 years now. I'm in my 7th year and have been on 2 different teams, but yeah, just so excited that I'm able to get paid to do something that I love and just have a really unique job, honestly. And yeah, I think obviously we're going to talk a lot about mental health today, but that's a huge part of my story as well. And just how it plays into my job, because it is a unique job with different stressors and anxieties that present itself. And yeah, I feel like every year I've just found different areas of growth mentally and how I can apply it to my job and how I play on the field. So, yeah, I mean, I'm passionate about mental health. I love playing soccer. I love my rescue dog. I love reading. Like, that's a little synopsis about me, I guess.
I love that. It's just so cool. Like, it's not most people's typical, right? Like, I do something that I absolutely love every day and I get paid to do it. I want to start here because I think it's like a really good starting point, but like such a, I'm sure like a vulnerable place to start too for you throughout this soccer career that you've had, right, the past 6 years. I imagine it's been quite a wild ride, and recently you had decided to take a mental health break. Can you start us here? And I'm sure we're gonna go all over the place with your career and mental health, but I'd love to know, why did you take that mental health break?
I think it was something that built up over time and kind of exploded within me. So I probably could have taken the break a year earlier, but I never did because I was always afraid of letting people down. I was like, if I'm not playing, like, people are gonna be upset they can't watch me, and, people already have trips to come out and see me. Like, I used every excuse in the book to just keep playing because I thought that I would be letting everybody down. I'd be letting my team down, my coaches, my family, my friends, like, everybody. But I didn't ask myself, like, "Well, what about me?" I never
Yeah.
like, took that mental check-in with myself of like, "Okay, but what could happen if I take this break? Like, what are the benefits of taking it?" And it wasn't until earlier this year in preseason where I was just crying mid-drill. I was just so overwhelmed. We were in the middle of practice, and I would just feel this flood of emotions, like, I just wasn't satisfied, I wasn't having that joy, all the stressors were just really high, and I was like, "Okay," that it was kind of just a breaking point for me. I was like, "If I can't get through a training session without being this overwhelmed, something needs to change." And I think I just stopped thinking about other people and was thinking about myself for a second, which was obviously the best thing I could have done, and, was able to just go into my coach's office and be like, "I need a break." And they were so incredibly supportive. Our league gives you 6 up to 6 months of paid mental health leave, which is absolutely incredible. So it just gives us players the security to do it and the confidence to know, like, okay, things won't change, like, I'm still gonna get paid, and, like, the mental game is just as important as, like, the physical side of it. So, just to be able to have that opportunity, I was really grateful and relieved a lot of stress of, "Okay, what's gonna happen next?" So, yeah, I took that break because I I couldn't get through a training without crying and being overwhelmed and stressed and having anxiety about my performance, about comparing myself to other people on the team, and it just hit a breaking point, and so I was able to take about 4 to 5 months off completely separate myself from the sport, and was able to just breathe, it felt like, for the first time in a while. I remember not going in that first day. I had decided to take the break, and just a weight lifted off my shoulders is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, how long had you been feeling that way? Because it's typical that we get signals from our body, right? Like crying where it feels like it's cut out of the middle of nowhere, feeling this really big sense of overwhelm, like just feeling so stressed. But typically it's been building and it's kind of been under the surface before we start recognizing, oh, there's some stuff going on. So how long before was it that you kind of knew, maybe now looking back, like this has been going on for a little bit now?
Honestly, probably like a year to a year and a half. I think there were definitely some things that just triggered like this identity piece in me that I don't think I had really figured out yet. And I just kind of pushed it to the side and was like, we don't need to worry about that right now. And obviously, I had to worry about it eventually, but I definitely think there were a few moments where I was kind of rocked in terms of my identity, whether it was just like getting benched one game or not getting the feedback I needed. Like there were certain things that happened that I think initially caused that like rift inside of me.
What was your experience like in being on the field and all of a sudden having all of these feelings where, of course, soccer has always been this thing that's like brought you a lot of joy and has been such a big part of your identity. And now you're feeling like this is stressful, overwhelming, and I'm not even really feeling that sense of joy anymore. Like that must have been such a weird experience.
Yeah, and honestly a little scary because it had provided so much joy, and even through all the lows, it was something I wanted to still do, and now I came to a point where I was like, I don't even wanna do it anymore. So it's
Yeah.
just scary to come to that realization within myself of like, "Okay, where does soccer have its place in my life?" Because separating yourself as, like, a human being from being this professional athlete can be really challenging because I don't want my identity to be in soccer, but it would be like amiss to not say that, yeah, soccer is a part of my identity because it's what I do, it's how people know me. And that's okay, but
Yeah.
how do I internally process that so that I'm not wrapped up in it? So just the initial part of that was just scary, that separation of those two. And I think what I found out about myself during my mental health break is one, obviously as time went on, like I just felt so secure in who I am as a person and what I could still bring to this earth without soccer. Like, I was like, wow, I'm actually going to be really okay without soccer. And I think recognizing that almost makes me like jump back into soccer with just a whole new perspective because I don't think I knew that before. I think a lot of athletes go through this, who am I going to be after soccer? Like what kind of career am I going to have? How am I going to have an impact on this world? And I think for me, that mental health break, like, showed me, like, you're gonna be just fine, so, like,
Mm.
you can prioritize, like, you can go back into the game now and just prioritize soccer rightly and play freely and know that you're gonna be okay on the other side.
What a beautiful freaking realization. Like, that is just so amazing. I am curious about this. I'm thinking, somebody in your position, right? It obviously is scary. Did you have this anxiety too about, I'm gonna now tell my team and I'm gonna step away from this thing and and my family and friends, like, was it so scary in that sense of telling them, I'm taking a mental health break and I need this? Like, what did that experience actually feel like for you?
Yeah, so telling my family, it was hard in the sense that I don't think they saw it coming because I did such a good job at, like, hiding it and just, like, pretending like things were okay, so they were very much like, "Oh, you've been feeling this way?" Like, "Oh, we were just here last week and you seemed fine," and so I hadn't really opened them up to what I was actually going through. I probably could have done a better job of that in retrospect, keeping them in the loop, but again, I think for me, it was like, I wanna keep them proud, I wanna keep them happy, so, like, I'm gonna put on this happy face. So for my family, that part was difficult, like, seeing their reaction and then knowing just how deep it was that, like, I was really trying not to disappoint them. But obviously, they were so loving and supporting, and I knew they would be, but, like, knowing and believing are 2 very different things. And then telling my team was really interesting because I had gotten traded to this team, last August. So I spent a majority of my career in Seattle, and I just got traded last year. So I've been here for just over a year now. And so in some ways, like, I still didn't, like, fully know the like, obviously, I knew the girls, but just, like, my relationships were very different than if I would have taken a break on my other team. I honestly think the coach might have done it for me. I don't remember. I might have sent a message to the girls, but I'd, like, honestly just wanted to, like, clean cut myself
Mhm.
off, and honestly, I asked the girls to not reach out to me, like, I would reach out to them when I'm ready, because in some ways I felt like I hadn't, like, found my people yet, and, like, a lot of people, like, didn't know this whole backstory about me, of my mental health and things like that, so that part, I didn't know how to navigate that, in all honesty, and I haven't really reflected on, like, would I have done it differently? But I did have people reach out, like, initially, like, saying, like, "We're here for you. We love you. Like, we hope you're okay," which was great, obviously, and, like, I knew they would do that. Like, the 2 teams I've been on have been so great from, like, a cultural standpoint, from just, like, a people person standpoint, so I wasn't fearing that, but, yeah, I still just didn't know my place in the team, so, like, to just remove myself felt weird and foreign, and I didn't know how if the girls would be like, "Oh, we, like, don't care," or what. So that was just interesting to navigate for sure, but as time went on, I met with a few girls throughout my break, which was good, but I just think for me, I just needed to separate myself from soccer completely, so I kinda just cold turkeyed it.
I mean, and that is so healthy. Like, you set some really hard boundaries, which is really hard for people to do, especially when you're struggling with some of that people pleasing. Like, I don't want to let people down. And for you to say, like, no, I need this and I don't want people reaching out to me, like, that is so freaking healthy. Is you're like, I don't know, kind of what I was doing, but so much of your inner wisdom was guiding you. I'm curious, so many people have this idea of like, if I stop, right? If I take a break, if I step away, it means I'm failing. Did you have any of that going on?
Less of failing and more of just, like, that letting people down that we've been
Yeah.
talking about. The part of, like, leaving the game that scared me was, like, such materialistic, like, irrelevant things. I was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna, like, play in these games and score goals and, like, add to, like, the number of games I've been in, and I'm not gonna, like, reach these milestones that, like, so many players reach," and it was just all these, like, things that did not matter that for some reason I cared about because, stats are important to a soccer player, and I was like, "Oh, I might not score any goals this year because I play forward," and it was just like, "But, like, why do you care, Beth?" Like, that is such, like, an earthly thing and, like, this thing that, like, just again, like, doesn't like, I'm not gonna have soccer forever, like, people aren't gonna remember my stats forever, like, why do I care so much about this? And so for me, it was like that was kind of the failure I think that I was, like, wrestling with. That, again, I knew it didn't matter, but, like, it's mattered so I think that's when I was like, "Wow, this actually has like, how many goals I scored has mattered so much to me for so much of my career, and, like, now it's not gonna matter, and, like, how do I reckon with that?"
Yeah. How have you reckoned with that? Because like it sounds like you've kind of come to the conclusion of like, it doesn't really hold that big of a weight, like, it's not that big of a deal, but what has that been like?
Yeah, it's so interesting because I think something I'm even learning now is just how, as an individual, I don't wanna, like, base my value on that, but, like, obviously the coaching staff is basing my value off that. Because if I can't score goals, they're not gonna play me, and so for me, it's like, how do I balance the 2 of, like, me as an individual understanding that that's not the end all be all, but, like, I'm being judged in that regard, and so for me, I think since coming back from my mental health leave, my focus has been, like, how do I raise my impact, like, off the field, and how do I make such good relationships on the team that, like, I'm leaving a legacy, and I just feel like I'm finding value and purpose in all the other things that, like, actually matter as opposed to, like, goals, assists, playing time, because those things are obviously gonna come and go, and it's gonna be roller coaster ups and downs, but, like, I see my teammates every single day, and I can, like, create incredible relationships with them, and I can do all these little things to, like, help the staff, help our equipment manager, like, whatever it may be that, like, people care so much more about. Like, like what people say, like, when you're in the grave, like, nobody's gonna care that I played soccer. They're gonna care if, like, I made them feel seen, made them, you know, feel a certain way. So, I think since taking my mental health break, being separated from my stats has allowed me to, like, live into that more and just practice being, like, a human that has an impact.
So I know you've talked, and this is totally relevant to my listeners. You've talked about how playing soccer in general, like, brings a lot of sort of overthinking and constant self-assessing, which I know so many people can relate to even outside of sports. Like, what has that looked like for you? And maybe has taking this mental health break helped you to navigate that better?
Yeah. I think in the past, I've always tried to, like, allow myself, like, a few moments to, like, think about what I like, to overthink essentially. So let's say I miss a shot, I'm like, "Okay, I can think about that until, like, halftime." And then, like, halftime comes and, like, I can't think about it anymore. That didn't work. I struggled to just, like, tell my brain to, like, turn off or, like, think about the next thing. I was like, "Man, if I would have made that shot, like, XYZ could have happened." And I think I just kept trying to do that, and it kept not working, and I was not trying to find different avenues, and I think, again, through my mental health break, I've learned to just make my thoughts neutral almost, so n to not let them have any, like, positive or negative connotation. It's just natural to overthink as a player, you have to think about every little thing, and so how do I manage that? And managing that for me is, like, making them, like, these neutral thoughts that, like, they just kinda, like, sit there. They're, like, dead inside my brain. So they're there, and, like, when I think about it, I just have no reaction towards it. Like, since I've come back, like, it's hard to do, but, like, once you have that maybe one thought, like, whether it's, I should have made that shot, or if it's something even, like, bigger about your identity, like, am I good enough? It just takes practice over and over again of, like, telling that thought, like, "I have the power to say you don't, like, get a say," type of thing. So, yeah, and I learned that from one of my mentors, which was really great. He really helped give me perspective on my thoughts. First of all, making sure that my thoughts are, like, valid in the first place, but even when they're not valid, like, giving them that neutral stance. So that's been super helpful for me since coming back.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, because the more we try to control our thoughts, right? Stop them, make them go away, all the things, they just heighten and we get more of the thoughts and then you get more frustration. So, yeah, it's so helpful when you can start to look at your thoughts. It's just like, okay, we don't need to take this so seriously. We don't need to make this front page news. Like, we can be more neutral. I don't know. I'd love for you to give an example, but I'm just thinking, like, if I'm a soccer player, which I never would be because I have no endurance or stamina. But if I were out there, right, and I had this thought of like, you missed that goal, right? You could have made that. It would be like speaking to my brain in the way of, yeah, like we could have made the shot, right? And it could have gone that way, but we didn't. It also could have gone this way and like it didn't. And that's okay. Like kind of just, being curious, like letting the thought be there, not trying to like shut it out, shut it down sort of thing, but like, okay, we can be more neutral with it. I don't know, can you give us an example of like what does that actually look like?
Like, in my brain?
Yeah. Because it is such a hard, like
Yeah.
you said, it's so abstract. It is. It feels like such a bizarre thing to like,
Yeah.
how do I make my thoughts neutral?
Yeah. Well, and it feels so big because, like, scoring a goal is a huge thing. So, like, when you don't, it's easy to just, like, crawl in that hole and be like, "Ugh." So, I haven't had as many, like, kind of intrusive overthinking thoughts when I'm on the field. A lot of it is actually more in training. Everybody trains so that they can play the games, right? Like, the games are the moments where you just get to go out, be free, and do what you do. And I feel like I really try to, like, allow the field to be that space. So, like, in that regard, I feel like I'm just going 1,000 miles a minute. And so, since coming back from my break, I'm like, I have so much time to overthink, but I have, like, no time to overthink. It's like this weird dichotomy between the 2. Or I think when I'm, like, in training, I'm always analyzing because I'm always comparing myself to other people on the team
Mm.
because you're trying to beat them out for a spot. Whereas, like, when you're in a game, the game's happening and, like, you don't compare yourself to your teammates in the game. But, like, when you're training and it's like, "Oh, I did this, she did that," like, "I did a good thing, she made a mistake." Like, "Oh, that means, like, I've moved up a little bit." And I think
Mm.
you're just constantly playing this comparison game of how do I get better than her? And that's when those thoughts, like, can really, like, come in. And again, a thing my mentor said is like, you just have to view everybody as equal. Like, because when it comes to like value, like everybody has that like inherent value. And I think when you look at a person and you're like, how can I be better than her? As opposed to like, she is my equal. I hope we like both can become the best version of both of ourselves, both on the field and off the field. It just like releases you of those thoughts and it's like allows you to just focus on you instead of other people. And that's when you can again have the time to like figure out how to make those thoughts neutral because you're not worried about besting someone or preying on their downfall. Like you're just focused on you. And I think since coming back from my break, that's been something I've really had to learn because I haven't gotten the playing time that I wanted since coming back. But in some ways, I've been able to have just a lot of acceptance and gratitude towards it because I'm not like taking it out on other people. Like it's just like me, myself, and I on this journey. And my thoughts are better and I'm happier and like I'm not getting as much playing time. So it just seems so counterintuitive, but it's because of the way that I view people on my team and this perspective that I have.
Yeah. Oh, perspective shifts, like reframing, can give us so much of that relief. It's wild. Okay. I think professional athletes in general, we sort of can see them as being, like, mentally unshakable, and then somebody takes a break, which we've seen more of, which is amazing that people finally feel like, "Okay, I can speak up and say, like, I'm not okay, and I need to step away," which is beautiful, and everyone should be able to do that, but I think we look at professional athletes like they are strong all the time. Did that sort of play a role too in you maybe putting off the mental health break of like, this isn't really a thing that people do? Like, I don't did you see many examples of it? Like, were other people taking breaks or like it felt like I'm gonna be perceived a certain way if I do this?
Yeah, it was definitely not something that was happening, and like you said, it's been happening a lot more. I think the one person I remember who did it was Simone Biles, and I remember she came back from her mental health break, crushed it, completely different athlete, like, so much better, and I was like I think throughout the year and a half that I was contemplating, I was like that was something that always came in my mind was, "Beth, you could come back better." But that it was still so scary to think of like, "Oh, stepping away means I get better," because usually it's you have to put more time in to get better. And so, again, it was just, like, so counterintuitive and countercultural to process that. And I think that's also why it maybe took so long because it didn't sound right at first, like, the math wasn't adding up of how to get to that point. So that was someone who I remember, like, actually seeing the whole thing, like, the break and then her coming back as, like, the motivation and, like, okay, so if you take a break, it doesn't mean you, like, fall off the face of the earth, like, you can come back a better athlete, even at the top level. And I think in terms of the like, fans and the support, it was actually, like, because of them that I felt so open to talk about what I was going through because I experienced my first panic attack in 2020. We did like a little bubble thing, a bubble tournament, and we kind of were just like stuck in our hotel rooms. You'd go to training, you'd go back to your hotel room, find what to do. And I posted something on Twitter X and just shared like, hey, this happened to me during the game, like happened in the first half. I got subbed out. I didn't really know what was going on. I was just hyperventilating, freaking out, and obviously not playing well. And I posted about it, and the response was absolutely incredible. And I guess I didn't even expect that because 2020, like mental health was like still like obviously COVID heightened it, but it was still something that was taboo to talk about in the sports realm. And so when I had people respond and be like, I needed this so much. It's so cool to see someone at your level share this. I was like, whoa, there's definitely a need here for people to talk about this more. And I can fill that gap in as I'm learning about it myself. So I think throughout my career since then, the more I share and the more I hear people, appreciate it, it's just, I didn't fear taking a break because of them, because I knew that they've kind of been with me this whole way and they've appreciated my honesty and vulnerability, which is why I continue to do it.
Okay, can we talk about that panic attack? 'Cause so many
Yeah.
people listening, right, are like, "I struggle with panic." Did you know? Were you able to recognize what was happening, or you were just like, "I have no idea what this is right now?"
I think it was I have no idea what this is. And I think I was trying to pinpoint what it was, like, "Oh, is it the heat? Am I just tired?" Like, I I didn't know why, but I knew in warm-ups I was struggling to breathe, and I never really had that before, and I was in shape, like, we had been training this whole time to prepare for this tournament, and I just remember every step on the field felt, like, so heavy and such a weight to move, and I just kept, saying, "Oh, when the game starts, I'll be fine. I'll be fine." And yeah, never was fine. So it was about the 30th minute. I asked for a sub, and I think about the 30th, 35th minute, I got subbed off. And like as I was walking to the bench, I kind of just like fell down and was like hyperventilating. And I think it was just scary because I didn't know what was going on. And they ended up bringing me back into like the locker room and I was just having really bad talk in my head, bad self-talk, just thoughts of wanting it to end, wanting the pain and the anxiety to stop, and I think for me, that was a dark place because it was the first time I'd ever have thoughts like that, and I was like, "I'm playing soccer, like, I love soccer, like, what's going on? Why can't I catch my breath? Why do I want this to end? What's going on?" It was just so unknown to me, and that part, I think, is what scared me and, like, made the panic attack almost worse.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, because then your body is like, "This is really bad," right? We need to, like, keep protecting you. Did you have panic attacks after that, or is just that one?
Not to that severity. There's definitely I've had moments in the game, or I remember one time even in warm up where I had to, like, take a moment. Like, I remember in warm up, I just ran back to the I stopped warm up. I was like, "I need to go back to the locker room and, like, breathe and do some exercise to just clear my mind and get myself in the right place." Um, and then there's times like mid game where like I just sit down and the ref stops the game and I'm just like, "Yep, have my trainer come over. I'm just gonna take a minute because I need it."
Can we talk about that? In the middle of a game, you would do that? Okay, we have to talk about this because so many people, it's such a big fear for them of like, what if I experience a panic attack, right? And I'm in the middle of the grocery store or I'm dropping my kid off at school, right? Like nobody wants that. Like, okay, everybody now has to like pay attention to me and help me, or like nobody, I feel like so many people carry that weight of like, I don't want anyone to see me panicking. And you're just saying, I'm like, oh no, no, no. Like, I need to just take a break right now. Like, what? You Was that easy for you to just be like, this is what I need and that's it?
Yes and no, because I think there are some times where I kind of ignored it and just tried to play through it, or I didn't, tell my coach or my trainer, "Hey, I'm feeling a little anxious today." I would just try to push through. And I think I learned that when I tried to push through it, it was just so much worse. And so I was like, something needs to change. And so I found that when I told trainers and told my coach, like, hey, can you sub me off? Like, again, the last thing I want to do is get subbed off, but I'm also like, for my own self, for the betterment of the team in this game, like, I need to come off. And like, I think initially that was a very scary thing to do because no player ever wants to come off the field. Like, we could have a broken leg and we'd still be like, yeah, I want to play. But I just understood that future me would thank me, like, for doing what I did, and telling someone, I think, is obviously the first step for me. And then just recognizing that, like, it's okay. Like, me taking a knee and like succumbing to my anxiety, even though that's not what it actually is, like,
Yeah.
it was okay that I took a moment for myself. It wasn't letting the anxiety win, it was letting my body decompress and do what it needs to do to get myself back to where I needed to be. And I think that obviously came with, like, a lot of time and understanding what I needed. That didn't just, like, happen the very first time. Obviously, the first time I tried to push through, that didn't work. So, it took time, but once you figure out what works best for you, I was like, "Just do it because it's what's best for me," you know?
Yeah. Oh, I so many people listening right now, I'm sure they feel that like just permission because it does when you are experiencing so much anxiety and you're just trying to push through and act like everything's fine and you're putting on a face. And I know people listening, like whether it's being in work meetings or you're with a friend and you're like, I'm just going to pretend I'm fine right now. And your body's like screaming at you, it is okay, right, to say, "No, no, no, like, we're not okay right now, and we actually, like, need to be vulnerable and express how we're feeling," and oftentimes you do feel that relief, like, that weight off once you're able to say, like, "No, I'm anxious," and, like, I can't just keep pushing right now." Oh, I'm so glad that you shared that. I mean, so what are things looking like now? Have you found relief with the anxiety and panic through taking the break, or it's still something that you're working through?
Throughout my break, I actually kind of experimented with different doses of medication just to try to figure out that piece. And I did a lot of meditation, prayer, just like hour of quiet time in the morning, like for nothing, to just let my almost like free association, just like let my thoughts run rampant, do my best to like be quiet and be still. And I think that would set me up each day, like, just not necessarily for success, but it just made me feel so much better about going into my day. And I think nowadays, now that, I still have to go into training now, I don't have like an hour necessarily every morning. I just start my day with gratitude. And that, I think, helps my anxiety a lot because I really don't think that like anxiety and gratefulness can coexist a lot. They're in some senses opposing because when you're grateful, you're not thinking about what's making you anxious. You're thinking about what's making you grateful. So just like starting the day with like, I'm so happy that I woke up this morning, that I have breath in my lungs, that I get the opportunity to live this day. Like, I go into training and like I have that perspective and it just helps the anxiety, honestly. So that's been something I think I've been doing that was a change from before my break to after.
Was medication a hard thing for you to try, or were you just like, "I don't care, I'll do whatever in order to make this better?"
It was definitely an I don't care. I'll do whatever. And I've been on it for a few years now. And then just over this break, we tried increasing it and it actually made it worse. So we went back down in dosage. But I was like, fix this. Like, because again, you think like you're gonna take a pill and it's gonna make you feel better. And while it does, there's all the studies about pairing it with therapy, pairing it with all these other things. So I think when I first experienced this, I was like, I will try anything and everything under the sun. And I think in some ways that's good because you need to figure out what works best for you because it's so individualized. Like, I obviously can share my story and what works for me, and that's not going to apply to everybody. And so, in some ways, it felt like a fun, not challenge, but just like you get to try these different things and see how they work and better you. And it's funny because that changes over time. Like, obviously, like, I'm not doing quiet time now, but during that period of my life, quiet time was the best thing for me. And now I'm doing gratitude. And like a year from now, it might be something different. And so just like the evolution of it and like knowing that you're going to change and evolve, just again, allowing yourself to like, that's okay. Giving yourself permission to like try different things and know that, oh, just because I take this medication every day or just because I do gratitude every day it doesn't feel like it's working, like that's normal. Either you can try something else. There's so many other things you can do, which is reassuring for me because like just knowing that it's not one size fits all.
Yeah, it is freeing, right? And like, but it is also that, and you know this best with being a, professional athlete. You got to build habits. You got to stick with things. It can't be, I just tried meditation for 2 days and that's not working. It's like, okay, well, you need some practice with things. You can't just, magic thing and I'm better. I am curious. I'm so glad that you're talking about the medication thing because I know that's a big piece for a lot of people. And what's helpful for you isn't necessarily what's going to be helpful for someone else. And what's helpful for you right now is going to change. It's not, might not always look how things look right now. But I am curious of like you've navigated through these months and like kind of figured out, okay, this is helpful. Nah, this isn't so helpful anymore. Are there things that you're doing right now that you're like, "Okay, I'm not stopping this anytime soon, like, this is clearly really helpful," and I hate to say working, but just helpful?
Yeah, I think the gratitude piece is something I've latched onto and I haven't really stopped. And the days like I miss it, I notice it. I've actually been starting to when I get to my games, I just take a lap around the field. I'll have like music on, like calming music, encouraging music, whatever it is, and I'll just the second we get to like an away field or a home game, I'll go out to the field and I'll just walk a lap and I'll just kinda say positive affirmations as I'm walking, like, just whatever I need for that moment. So, whether that's like, "I will be safe during this game," or, "This space is gonna be protected," or, "My mind is gonna be protected while I'm on this field." I'm a Christian, so, like, a lot of that is, like, biblical things or just, like, verses or just, like, "I'm good enough to be here walking on this field." Like, whatever it may be to, like, ground me in that moment and ground me on that field, it's like I'm setting the stage for that field of, like, when I enter it, like, how it's gonna be, and that I've found to just be very helpful, so then when I go out for warm-ups and I go out for the game, it's like I've already prepared this space for me that's, like, welcoming, belonging, and gives me the freedom to play. So, I know other people in my league, they'll go out on the field, they'll, like, sit in the center circle, and they'll just meditate for 10 minutes. So I think I kinda got inspiration from them of, like, okay, what can be, like, my thing that I do that helps me get myself right, and that's what I've found and what I've been doing, so
Oh, I love that. I think so many of us like benefit in that slowing down of like, okay, we can't just like go and you're constant. I can imagine playing sports. It's like this constant like surge of energy. And if you're experiencing any anxiety, stress, overwhelm, it's like putting fuel on the fire, right? So that slowdown, I imagine, is incredibly helpful. I am wondering how your relationship has changed with you since taking the break, because it sounds like soccer is no longer maybe your entire identity, and maybe you've been figuring a little bit more about who you are as a person. Can you talk about that?
I got really humbled during my mental health break, and I think I needed that, and just, like, selfless acts weren't always my, like, natural inhibition to do, and I think one thing I've learned about myself and then what I've just been trying to grow in is how do I show up for my teammates in ways that they're not expecting, in ways that are helpful for them, and in ways that, like, make an impact. I think that's never been my first thought. We're playing a sport that is so much, like, puts people on pedestals, and, like, you're trying to be on the national team, you're trying to score the most goals, you're trying to win a World Cup, and it's just sometimes it's always like, "How do I get to the top?" And I think this break was like it doesn't need to be that. That can obviously be a goal and a dream, but, like, it shouldn't be about you, and I think for me, that, like, hit really hard because I had a very successful college career. Up to this point, I've had a pretty successful professional career, but it's like, what does successful mean? Like, how was I defining that? Like, in terms of stats and numbers, yes, but, like, was I a great teammate all the time? Like, or was I always, like, wanting other people to do things for me and, like, asking them to show up? Like, was I willing to show up for them? And so I just think, like, my perspective shifted in that regard, and that was something I just like learned about myself that I can prioritize more because that's gonna make me the most satisfied and, like, feel the most fulfilled because you're always chasing something, right? Regardless of your profession, you're always chasing the promotion, the higher status, like, whatever it may be, and maybe it was Tom Brady that said it, I don't know, but, like, he had all those things, and he still felt like something was missing, so it's like, we see it all the time. It's like, why do we still think that that's what's gonna give us, like, fulfillment in life? And so it's so hard to separate the 2, especially in a job that's based on your performance and based on success in terms of cultural standards. So, that was kind of like a long rabbit hole answer, but I
No.
think, like, just the humbling process that I've learned about myself and just how I can be more selfless and more giving back to the sport and back to the people that have invested in me, again, just allows me to play better, honestly, because I know my teammates better and, like, I know that I'm doing it for something that's more than just scoring a goal.
Yeah, that connection piece is so huge for all of us as humans. But I think what I'm hearing most, right, is this gratitude. You're having gratitude for your like so many things in your life, right? That maybe don't just revolve around soccer, like having gratitude for that stuff, just stuff in the day to day, but also having gratitude for other people. And those things are massive because it like brings your awareness to the now, to some good stuff, to like what's actually happening. Cause our brains are so good at focusing on like what could happen, what might happen, like all the bad shit that's happening. And it's like, okay, but there's all this good stuff too. So I love that gratitude's been really helpful for you. I am wondering, like, this vulnerability, you have been so vulnerable, which is incredibly inspiring and admirable. Like, it's really hard to be vulnerable. And I don't want to say, especially being a professional athlete, but I think it is. Like, it's really hard when you have people looking at you. Like, I can be vulnerable, but I mean, I do have people looking at me, but it's like I don't have, crowds of people or teammates. And like, so how has that, do you feel like, affected your healing? Like, has vulnerability really helped you to face that fear and that anxiety and like to just do things differently?
Yeah, I just think, like, the human experience is what connects us all together, and it's just it makes me laugh to think that, like, we're all, like, hiding and shying away from, like, these negative experiences and anxieties and depression and whatever it may be that we're having because we're all having it. So, like, let's talk like, it just makes me chuckle a little bit inside because we're all trying to put on this perfect front, and that's why I'm vulnerable because I know someone's gonna relate to it, and I know I'm gonna get vulnerability in return, and that's the thing that we all have in common, and so why wouldn't we share about that? Why wouldn't we express that? And for the people who need it with judgment, they don't get it, and they've got their own things to work with, but the people who need it with equal vulnerability, like, that to me is just the connection piece that you mentioned, like, that's why we're here, that's, like, what we're sharing in, and we're just learning together, and we're growing together, and I think it's just the biggest lie to tell that you have it all together and that you've got it figured out. Even, yeah, me, and I've learned so much, and, like, I there nobody can have all the knowledge, and we're gonna experience it every day. It's not like it just goes away, and once you realize that, then it's like, "Okay, well, then what like, let's talk about it. Because if it's not gonna go away, it must be something that we need to express to each other." So, that's kinda my perspective on it and my take, and that first time, I think, I didn't even realize I was being vulnerable. I was just kinda, like, giving an update like, my panic attack, and then I think it just each time it got easier and easier and easier, and I think that's the case when you're vulnerable. The first time is so scary, but then when you do it again, and maybe if it's the same story, it just becomes easier and people are receptive to it because they see them in you and your experience.
Yeah, and like you said, we're all wanting that, like, we're all craving that, and I swear, I say this all the time, but if more people walked around being vulnerable, like, our world would be so much more peaceful because it's just so many of us are trying to, like, put on a face and pretend, and it is so anxiety producing. Okay, so if somebody's listening right now and they're like, "I kind of known I need to slow down, I need to take a break, or I need to admit that I'm struggling," what would you really want them to hear right now?
I would just say, like, you know yourself best. I think you hear so many voices throughout the day from other people, and all that matters is what you think and feel. Like, it's okay to be selfish because in some ways it's not even selfish. You're choosing you, which you should do. And I know for me, I got to a point where I had no other option, and I wouldn't want other people to get to that point. I want them to choose themselves earlier. So trust your intuition, trust that you know your body, your mind, and listen to it and respond accordingly. And if that means taking a break, that means taking a break. I can't imagine many people take a break and come back and say, "Ugh, that wasn't good for me." Like I'm sure the stats are very high that it was good because you just learn about yourself and you have the time to do so, and that's really important. So
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Okay, one last thing. I could ask you so many questions. But now taking the break, right, and being back in it, you're playing again. What does success or healing look like for you now? Like, because I'm sure it's got to look differently than it did before.
yeah, I think the healing piece is like understanding that I can have anxiety, but anxiety doesn't have to have me. Like, I like to use that phrase a lot because it's something that I know I'm gonna experience in life always. There are always gonna be anxious moments that pop up regardless of what job I do. And to understand that, like, I can just, like, have anxiety just, like, sit right here and, like, not again, like, neutral, like, not necessarily move up or down, but that it's just, like, there, and then, like, that was healing to me because I think it was, like it was up here. It was like the crown on my head, and it was what was guiding me and making my decisions for me. But when you understand the power you have over that, and again, it takes so much time because I was saying things that I didn't necessarily believe over and over and over, and I just said it until I believe it, like fake it till I made it, because I knew that I had the power, and I just had to get my thoughts in my brain and my mind and my heart to like believe that as well. And so that healing piece for me has been really cool because it allows me to approach right now soccer differently. Because I think during that bubble I was in, I went back and played the next game, and we went to like a PK shootout. And I remember I was like, anxiety would tell me not to take this PK because it is going to produce so much. But like I told myself, I was like, but if I go and step up that and take that PK, miss or make, like I have just like stomped anxiety out. Like I have said that like it doesn't get a say in this moment and I get to choose that. And for me, that was like a really powerful moment. And I ended up like making it. It was the best thing ever. But that was like the first instance where I realized like I can like almost just like walk over this bridge of anxiety and like let it not get to choose my decisions. It can just be something that I have, but, like, I'm still in control. So, hopefully that answer answered that, but that was just, like that's an instance that keeps coming up, like, every time, like, I have to take a PK or whatever it may be, like, in some ways, I'm, like, grateful that I get the opportunity to, like, say, like, "Yep, anxiety, you don't get to say." I do.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I am so proud of you for being so vulnerable and talking about this. And I think, we need more of this. Like, we need more instances. And I think it's so much gratitude, right, to Simone for coming out and talking about all of her stuff and sharing. And I think it's just allowed so many more athletes to do that. And it's just such a good direction that I hope things continue on. And you're helping to do that, which is just such a beautiful thing on top of all the work that you already do. So if people want to find and connect with you, Bethany, where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram and TikTok. I love making fun and light anxiety, like, content to, like, just, like,
Yeah,
lighten the mood around it and just, again, normalize it, but my handle's just my name on both of those, Bethany Balcer, so,
amazing. Well, it's been so fun chatting with you and so helpful. And I just wish you the best.
yeah, thank you for opening up this conversation and having me, I appreciate it.
I hope you loved this episode of A Healthy Push. If you have, I'd be so grateful if you could leave me a rating and review wherever you're listening to this podcast. This helps people to find the show and get the support they need. And if you know someone who could use a little push, be sure to share this episode with them. And for even more support, head over to ahealthypush.com for show notes and loads of tips, tools, and inspiration to help you on your recovery journey. I'll see you next week.